I've received two apologies, one from Honorable Singh and the other from Honorable Kwankwa.
Okay. And the speaker as well, I guess.
Yes, but she's logged on, but she'll be chairing. Yes.
Oh, okay, she's logged on. Okay, no, that's good. That's good. All right. I was wondering why you are not here. Okay. And let's hear any views on the any other apologies we should note. None. Let's go to the agenda. I assume the agenda is okay. All right. Let's look at the minutes. Honorable Majorina.
I was still on the agenda, Honorable Chair.
On the agenda?
Yes,
oh,
Honorable
okay.
Chair.
What about the agenda?
On the agenda, I wanted to check whether we are going to discuss the matter of increasing numbers in the plenary when we discuss parliamentary program, or can I put that on the agenda?
Let's talk about it as part of the program.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Okay, thanks. All right, let's look at the minutes. Any corrections?
Deputy Speaker, it's Natasha.
Yes, Natasha.
Deputy Speaker, I would like to move for adoption of the minutes and also appreciate the fact that the minutes have been vastly improved, and would like to thank whoever is taking the minutes for doing such a sterling job.
Okay. You are providing your view about the entirety of the minutes. Okay. Any other view or correction?
Yes, Deputy Speaker, I would like to correct on page 3, where it says that Member Mkhalipi, but I just want to bring some corrections to say that I didn't say that we have written to the Speaker regards to the local government. I said that we have written to the Speaker in regard with the Minister of Health.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yes.
All right.
That's correct.
All right. I noticed that. I was wondering, but I wanted you to confirm. Okay. Now you get it, the writers of the minutes. Please correct that. Let me also, whilst at
Deputy Speaker.
Indicate. Yes, Julius.
Sorry for that. Thank you. And good morning, colleagues. Just the last point on parliamentary program. It is stated that in response to myself, Julius, that the president, the appearance of the president, I spoke about the deputy president and not the president. I explicitly said that the president is appearing very frequently this term, but the deputy president, so it should read deputy president in response to
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Can I also say that where I am quoted as saying that I had spoken to a member of the executive, it should be members, plural, of the executive. I don't know what page it is. Do you see that? Yeah, it's here.
So on page 3, Deputy Speaker.
On page 3.
We've got that, sir. Yeah, we've got that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Just indicate that I phoned a variety of and wrote to and interacted with a number of members of the executive, not just one. Okay. Okay, so I suppose with those corrections, the minutes are a true record. And as Honorable Mazzoni says, they are a good record and compliments to the writers of the minutes on our behalf. Who
Deputy
proposes?
Speaker, it's Natasha.
Yes, Natasha.
Deputy Speaker, sorry about that. I was selfishly just making sure that everything that I had said was correct. But with those corrections that everyone has added, I would again like to move that the minutes are accepted.
Thank you. Seconder?
I am seconding.
Shaking.
Someone else is? Before Sheikh, who was speaking?
It was Penny Matodina. I fully second the
Honorable Matodina. Okay, all right. Okay, you've got that. So the minutes are true record. Let's go to the next item, which is matters arising. Can we have these attended to immediately?
I may start, Deputy Speaker, with your permission.
Please lead us. Yes, Ndati.
Deputy Speaker and honorable members.
Before you proceed, I just want to make an observation that the resident matters ariser seems to be running out of steam a little bit. So we'll ask her to go and reboot. She needs a reboot. Go ahead, Ndati class.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I would like to speak on 3 issues. 1, the issue of assent to bills, and 2, 394 legislation, and the third one really is just to emphasize the point that the NYDA matter will be discussed next week. Now, in terms of the matter of bills and the delay in terms of assenting to bills, as indicated previously, a legal opinion has been obtained. And in terms of the legal opinion, there is a constitutional obligation to ensure that bills are assented to within a reasonable time. And of course, a constitutional obligation must be carried out diligently. Speaker has studied the opinion, and the next step is to engage the executive in terms of agreeing on a process, because there is no stipulation in terms of what constitutes that reasonable time and by when these bills must be assented to. So there will be engagements between the executive authority of Parliament, because this affects both houses, and the presidency to agree to a framework in terms of how these bills are dealt with, to ensure that there are no delays, unnecessary delays in the process. That's the first thing, Deputy Speaker. The second one is in relation to pre-94 legislation. Indeed, as indicated previously, the list was circulated to members. But further to that, the list was communicated to the executive in 2020, I think it was March 2020. And the Speaker requested that the matters be attended to by the relevant members of the executive. What will now happen is that Speaker will be following up on that, addressing correspondence to the leader of government business to ask for some progress report on what would have happened between then and now in terms of attending to those laws, acts of parliament that had been identified. The third one, I might just touch on this, the issue of where there are deadlines issued by the Constitutional Court. I realized in the minutes that the Honorable House Chairperson Frolick had actually responded to this matter, that there is a process between legal services and the relevant committees, which involve the House Chairperson for committees, where immediately there is an order of the court in relation to a bill that is brought to the attention of the relevant committee. And of course, there cannot be a single timeline because the court would issue different orders in respect of different bills. So each case is treated on its merits, but there is an established process between legal services, the Office of the House Chair for committees, and the affected committees. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Before you step off, I don't remember seeing. We had recommended that we should, on receiving a court indication of a deadline, set our own deadline for the executive, so that if they fail to do so, the committee of parliament can then proceed to do the appropriate amendment itself. Is it reflected?
Yes, I'm going to invite legal services advocate Van der Merwe.
Okay,
clarify that
this
point.
is what we had said at the last meeting. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, and good morning, members. Yes, Deputy Speaker, in fact, that is part of the process that Mr. Kaso just referred to. So in our opinion, we make certain recommendations to committees for the deadlines that has to be set for certain decisions to be taken. At this point, we are recommending 6 months to get a final decision from the executive on how they will proceed and to get a timeline from them. And then, so that is our first suggested process. Of course, it will then depend from committee to committee and what the proposal from the executive is, how it goes from there. But that is what we currently have in place. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This is important. I hope the leader of government business, the parliamentary councillor for the leader of government business, Honorable Papo, will communicate this indication from our side, so that it's not regarded, it's understood what gave rise to it as a critical intervention by Parliament to ensure that we stay within the, as I said earlier on, it's a gesture, an acknowledgement by the courts that they don't make laws. That's our terrain, and they can't intervene, except where they have found a gap. They can only refer the job to us to do. So it is in that spirit that we should regard the necessity for our response to provide because of the experience we have already, whatever complexities do emerge, that we have time limits and we have to see how we go around it urgent. Including with the possibility that the committee itself proceeds with the work. Any other matter arising?
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Yes, go ahead, ma'am.
If we can also be updated in terms of the Deputy Speaker indicated that he will recommend to the Speaker that in the interim, the Speaker makes a statement in the House regarding members of the executive who had not responded to question. It was a matter on an unanswered question, Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
And to further to that point, Deputy Speaker, we raised the point here as the EFF to say that we are very, very worried on the conduct of the Minister of Health, who refused to answer a question. So therefore, we are raising this matter in that context, Deputy Speaker. So we would like to hear what is the way forward.
No, the letter has been written. Rather, the Honorable Shivambo's letter has been responded to yesterday. I don't know whether he has received it, but we responded to it yesterday. In essence, what we say is that we agree that it is necessary that the executive provide answers to committees of Parliament when this is required. However, there are instances where, for whatever reason, legitimate reason, that the minister concerned may request that some of the matters be done confidentially to committees. And that's a decision that the minister, on requesting the chair and by agreement, that such matters be handled that way. So there are instances like that. This is the basic response that we are getting. But generally, the necessity for responding to question is a matter that we agree needs to be attended to urgently and as speedily as we can have those answers back from the executive. It's a pity that the speaker wasn't well in the past week, so we couldn't talk. So she meets the recommendation that I said I would make to her in the minutes, as she would have noticed that. But when she feels okay about it, she can give us her response now or later after considering the recommendation that I'm making. So that would be from my side. Okay. Any other matters arising? None. Let's proceed to the
Deputy
next
Speaker?
slide. Yes.
Deputy Speaker?
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes, sir.
My hand was raised,
Steve.
Swart, yeah? Yes.
Okay, go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Just responding to the input on the reasonable time to assent to bills. I think it's important for us to keep a list of those bills that are awaiting signature. We had the one incident that the Protection of State Information Bill that sat with the two presidents for 7 years and has now last year been referred back to the Justice Committee. So I think it's very important for us to keep a list of those bills that are awaiting signature or assent by the president. Secondly, I appreciate the opinion on what is a reasonable time. Most definitely 7 years is not a reasonable time. And as we know, Section 84, the president can assent or he can refer it back or he can send it to the Constitutional Court. So I appreciate what the legal services have said in that regard. And secondly, also about the Constitutional Court deadlines, I fully support your sentiment about a deadline as well as what the legal services, and I appreciate the work they're doing, but what you've said about a deadline, that should the executive not be responding quick enough, that then Parliament, because the order is against Parliament to amend the legislation, we then should start looking at committee bills. I appreciate there often is policy involved, but we cannot miss those deadlines. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. I assume there's no other matter arising.
No,
Let's go to the...
I've raised my hand for much earlier.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. I don't see it here. Go ahead.
I want to speak to the issue of assent of bills. I don't think that the approach which is reported here is a correct approach of saying that the speaker will engage with the presidency and then have some stopgap measure on when should bills be assented to. I think there must be a discussion of a policy framework which will be there whether there is not just agreement between two offices. I think that in principle, let us all gain access to the legal advice and then we all openly engage of what is a reasonable time whenever a bill has been passed by Parliament for any president to sign that bill into law. The Constitution does not provide that, but there's a necessity to give guidance to that, either legislatively or as a principled policy agreement, that this is how we should then deal with. So I think that is one issue that we must then be guided on. Like I think we must be given access to the legal opinion, and then we then draft a clearer policy standard framework, so that even the two people who are occupying the offices now are not there. This is different people. There's a standard practice that we expect a president to sign or to assent to bills or reject bills within this reasonable time, so that there is no blurring of lines between Parliament and executive. Because if we do not do anything about this, we leave it to the whims of a president who in most instances can just say, no, I'm not going to assent to this bill because I politically do not agree with it. And that is against the spirit of the Constitution. And this also applies to the report that was given now in relation to the pre-1994 bills. The request that was made in the previous meeting was to say, can we be given access to all the bills that were, not bills, to all the pre-1994 pieces of legislation, what legislations are there so that we can start the process of repealing them. It doesn't have to be just the executive that is given that, because what the Secretary of the National Assembly says here, he says that no, we're going to engage with the executive will see how they handle that. We should do it as Parliament. We can initiate a process of repealing a lot of these unnecessary legislations that were basically essentially apartheid legislations, and get rid of them. The executive has got its own responsibilities in terms of tabling of bills. We have an obligation as members of Parliament to initiate legislation, which in some instances, or in this context, will have to repeal the pre-1994 bills. And the issue of non-disclosure agreement, Deputy Speaker, it's not just the question of our engagements with the Minister of Health. It's also a general principle. How do we deal with non-disclosure agreements as Parliament? Because we have to get accountability and transparency from the executive. We will write a letter today to the Minister of Health to say we want the details of how much was spent on purchasing the vaccines that are expiring on the 31st of April. Who was involved in purchasing the vaccines? Where does it come from? All of these details. Who is involved in purchasing the Johnson & Johnson vaccines and all of those things? Why did it come from outside South Africa when they say information that part of it is being manufactured here in Port Elizabeth? And all of those aspects. So we need to be given a clearer framework of, generally as members of Parliament, how do we deal with non-disclosure agreements in relation to accountability and obligation of the executive to account to Parliament, because that is the essence of us holding the executive accountable. It may be another ministry in the future. Someone can say in Public Works that I have appointed contractors, but we've got a non-disclosure agreements. I mean to say. And then we become a dead Parliament, because whoever wants to escape responsibility and accountability to Parliament can just go and sign NDAs with whichever suppliers and contractors that they engage with, and then we're closed off the oversight, the responsibility and obligation which is contained in the Constitution. That is the context within which this issue of NDAs is discussed, that let us deal with it now. Let's nip it in the bud now, that a minister is using NDAs to refuse to answer questions, so that it is not done by all other ministers and the executive as a whole and state entities, because it will then render Parliament dysfunctional if we cannot gain access to the necessary information and contractual obligation that the state has. Then if we then agree in that, there must then be an agreement on what is the method of engagement, what is the policy framework, what guides the executive on NDAs. If it requires private meetings, what happens if it's a written question? That must be clarified so that we know how to deal with these things, because we cannot agree to be closed off the information of what was agreed with the vaccine suppliers in the immediate and okay. What is happening in all of those issues. That is the context of these issues. Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Those are the three issues.
I think you've made your point. Thank you. I just want to say that I want to make a couple of points. I notice Honorable Speaker has her hand up there. I just want to say the following things quickly. That Rule 184 applies to the last point you are making that day. And I would like us to employ it so that the questions you are raising, we must then deal with them if that mechanism does not work. As it is now, the imputation that the minister is refusing is that it's an imputation. In other words, we have not used a mechanism that the rules allows us to use. Its inadequacy or not cannot be determined on the basis of what you are saying now. We will discuss that. If a report comes back to say that this rule, as it applies in this matter, was not applied, and or the minister and the committee were not able to deal with this matter, so it creates a difficulty in us carrying out our accountability responsibility. That's the first point. The second one that I want to respond to is the first one that you said is an incorrect thing. You can't say discussions between the president and the speaker is inappropriate in dealing with matters that we are considering here. The constitution, you say, is being broken, calls for cooperative governance. We start with assuming a good intention that in the discussions of matters of this nature, the report that they bring to us will then give us guidance on how and to what extent and to what detail will be necessary if we want to make an adjustment. But without having had a report of the speaker following what we are recommending when she does meet with the president, it's really inappropriate for us to already assume that the system is not working, it's not going to produce result. I suggest that we follow the constitution and be compliant with cooperative governance and ensure that we pull these things together only when the mechanisms are not working in these particular instances that we are talking about, not in general terms, but in particular and concrete terms of what we are talking about now. And we would like to do that. I do want to ask members not to get into these discussions of this matter because it arose as a matter arising. We replied to Honorable Shivambo. He rediscusses it here. I would like us to discuss it when it is ripe, when we have received the reports that we are referring to, that we expect to come from both the leader of government business and the meeting of the president and the speaker, when the opportunity arises. Honorable Speaker, please go ahead.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. You have dealt with the matter between the President and the Speaker. I just wanted to say that the chairperson of the Health Portfolio Committee and the chairperson of the Select Committee in the NCOP should by now be knowing the rules and should be understanding the three circumstances under which committees can be closed. And one of them is at a matter which we are discussing, the tenders and whatever. So I suggest that we actually have a discussion with two chairpersons to convene a meeting where the minister can then discuss that which members are talking about around the procurement of the vaccines and whatever. Because there are multiple partners that the state is engaging for the procurement of this. We don't know the prices, we don't know the details. But on the other hand, that has to be balanced with the right of Parliament and parliamentarians to know. That is within our, it doesn't mean that because the open talks can prejudice a certain whatever transactions that the Parliament does not have the know. Whenever the state spends a cent, we have the right to know how it is spent. So I suggest that we actually engage the chairpersons to get the committees into a meeting, and only then when the minister refuses to respond to questions can we intervene and say, now we have an issue. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. Yes, Honorable Shivambo, I see you've raised your hand, but I thought that the Speaker settles that issue.
No, it's the hand I had raised earlier to then deal with
it's
this
an old
issue.
hand, as they say. Okay, all right, thanks.
Deputy Speaker, we have Honorable Sheikh Imam hand up.
Yes, let's hear him. Honorable Sheikh. Madam Speaker, please lower your hand there. Honorable Sheikh.
He is muted. He is muted, Deputy Speaker. If he could unmute himself. Honorable Sheikh, please unmute yourself.
Honorable Sheikh, unmute.
He seems to be having difficulties with his. I'm wondering if
we'll come back to him. Let's proceed, honourable members. I am jittery because there are caucuses that begins at 10 o'clock, and generally we wouldn't like to hold the meeting for too long, beyond 10.
Can you hear me now, Deputy Speaker?
Sorry?
Can you hear me now, Deputy Speaker?
Yeah, go ahead. Speaking that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened, but I was unmuted. But thank you very much. And I think the Honourable Speaker has responded partly to the sensitivity of some negotiations that takes place, particularly in the case of vaccines. But very importantly, I wanted to highlight once again the issue of the entire question sessions, even in portfolio committee meetings, Deputy Speaker. Sometimes it's ineffective because you pose questions, you don't get the answer. It requires further engagement with departments and things. And so I'm not sure whether at some stage we need to engage and look at whether we should not, allow follow-ups immediately with limited, of course, time frames so that we could, get better responses and actually get the answers we're really looking for, rather than getting a response. We may not be satisfied, or unfortunately, our question is not answered to our satisfaction, and the matter then falls away, because then it defeats the purpose. So all I'm asking is, can we look at whether the processes of question and answers, whether it's effective enough or not at this stage? Thank you.
All right. Let's have that discussed, and let's get recommendations on how to deal with that matter going forward. Thank you. Let's go to the next committee.
Good morning, Deputy Speaker, honorable members and colleagues. The committee section reports start on slide number 4. On this slide, Deputy Speaker, it is the ad hoc committee to amend section 25 of the Constitution. The committee postponed its meeting that was supposed to be held on the 16th of February, and the committee will meet again on Friday the 19th to deliberate on the proposed revised program. Now the other dates will be affected, but the date to finish still remain the same pending the revised program. The next update is on slide number 10. On this slide, it is Electoral Law's Second Amendment Bill before PC on Home Affairs. The committee is planning to hold electoral reform policy workshop, and date is still to be decided. The next update is on slide number 19, Deputy Speaker. On this slide, it is Traditional Courts Bill before PC on Justice and Correctional Services. The committee requested the legal opinion on the constitutionality of the bill, and the committee is planning deliberations on the 12th of March with the aim to finalize the bill on the 19th of March. The next update is on slide number 20. That is a recognition of customary marriages amendment bill before PC on Justice and Correctional Services. The bill was finalized last week, Friday, the 12th of February. Next update is on slide number 21. That is Civil Aviation Amendment Bill before PC on Transport. The committee has provisionally planned for deliberations on the 23rd and 24th of February, and the adoption of the report on the 2nd of March. The next update is on slide number 26. On this slide, it is Liquor Products Amendment Bill. The committee requested permission to refer the matter to National House of Traditional Leaders as per the President's reservation, and is still waiting for the response. Other activities will be scheduled thereafter. The next update is on slide number 36. On this slide, it is Local Government Municipal Structure Amendment Bill. before PC on COCTA. The committee could not finalize the bill on the 16th as planned, and the committee is to review to revise its program to determine the date of finalization. The next update is on slide number 37, is customary initiation bill before PC on COCTA. The committee also postponed adoption on the 16th of February and will revise its program. The next update is on slide number 37. That is economic regulations transport bill before PC on transport. The committee has provisionally set the deliberations, further deliberations for the 2nd, the 5th, and the 9th of March, and the adoption of the report on the 10th of March. The next update is on slide number 39. That is also a national road traffic amendment bill before PC on transport. The committee will consider the written submissions on the 10th of February and provisionally plan for public hearings on the following days, the 5th, the 10th, the 11th, the 12th, 16th, 17th, and 19th of March. The next update is on slide number 43. On this slide, it is the Children's Amendment Bill before Portfolio Committee on Social Development. The committee has provisionally planned for provincial and national visual public hearings. The provincial visual public hearings are planned for the 9th up to the 12th of March, and the national public hearings are planned for the 17th up to the 19th, and from the 23rd up to the 26th of March. The next update is on slide number 46. On this slide, it is the statutory appointment before PC on communication, that is SABC. The committee could not do the shortlisting on the 16th of February, but the new date is the 23rd. The aim to finish remain the same. The next update is on slide number 47, also before PC on communications. That is the statutory appointment on Media Development and Diversity Agency. The committee also postponed shortlisting from the 16th provisionally to the 23rd of February. The next update is on slide number 48. It is the statutory appointment before PC on Justice and Correctional Services. That is the South African Human Rights Commission. The committee received the legal advice on the 16th of February and will schedule further activities. Next update is on slide number 50. Before PC on police, appointment of the National Forensic Oversight Ethics Board. The committee is planning briefings on the 2nd of March and the adoption of the report on the 3rd of March. The next update is on slide number 53. On this slide, it is the appointment of members of the Critical Infrastructure Council before PC on police. The adverts are closing on the 22nd of February. The committee is planning the shortlisting on the 9th of March. The date to finalize is during the 2nd term. The next update is on slide number 55. That is the petition from the residents of Banero Park in Kipling Park before PC on human settlements, water and sanitation. The committee finalized the petition last week, Friday, the 12th of February. The next update is on slide number 56. It is a petition requesting information surrounding the death of the late Colonel C. Kinner before PC on police. The committee will consider the petition on the 23rd of February. The aim is to finalize the bill during the petition during the 2nd term. This concludes our report, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much. Can we have bills and then take them together? Bills.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. The committee section report gives us a good idea of which bills to prioritize in respect of the processing of official second language texts. We take note that the recognition of customary marriages bill is on the order paper for approval after it's come back from the NCOP. And the NCOP Select Committee has also reported on the National Gambling Bill, and it's on the NCOP order paper. Deputy Speaker, work is progressing on the budget bills, and we will have hard copies available for the introduction plenary on Wednesday, the 24th of February. Then, just as a matter of interest, mention was made of bills with the President for assent and the process that may have to govern that. I can mention that at the moment there are 6 bills with the President for assent, and half of them were sent to the Presidency in December of last year. So they've only been there for 2 months. It's also the least number of bills that's been with the Presidency for a long time. We do keep track of them, when we send them, when they are assented to, and we are always in contact with the Presidency and with the government printer to ensure that they are properly gazetted after they've been assented, also with the second language text in mind. Lastly, Deputy Speaker, we are eagerly waiting to see if there is going to be an LGB executive leader of government business executive legislative program that will come out this year to see which bills we have to prioritize. Thank you.
Thank you very much, members. Here's the bills and the committee reports together. Let's discuss them. Any comments? Honorable Majordina.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Let me welcome the presentation. Deputy Speaker, I want to check the recognition of customary marriage amendment bill. I might be out of order a little bit, but I'll be assisted here. For quite some time, the Hindu and the Muslim have been raising the issue of not their marriage not being recognized in any form. So I just wanted to check if this does take care of that. Secondly, the issue of public hearings virtual. We raise the fact that most of communities in disadvantaged areas, especially in rural areas where there is no bandwidth, they get disadvantaged in terms of attending public hearings. And we further recommended that if there was no COVID, the committees were going to go out there on public hearings. But given the circumstances that we're in, we must find a way of assisting with the infrastructure for our people to be able to attend. Is there any developments when it comes to that? Because we used to go out on public hearings, but is there any form of support that is given to people who are unable to connect? They don't have data, they don't have connectivity. Is there any plan that we have as Parliament? Thank you.
Okay. Any other question?
Yes, Deputy Speaker, is Mkhalipi.
Honorable Mkhalipi.
Yes, Deputy Speaker, I will also seek your guidance as well in terms of the sectoral parliament. I don't know where do we locate that one, because I will have think that the committee section will also update us, especially when there is a program of the review charter of women that is also under parliament. And yesterday in the Chiefs Forum, we have raised that issue that there is a challenge regards to the program that is taking place. I think it's Ishifan and Alega, Chief Whip of the ANC, ukuthi abantu from rural areas, they can't be log into this kind of platform that you are using here. And again, according to the program as well, Deputy Speaker, let's say again, those people who want to contribute on this charter, especially who are dealing with the issues that are affecting women. So they are given only 15 minutes to interact. So therefore, we spoke about it yesterday in the Chiefs Forum, but it was supposed to be taken to you as a Deputy Speaker who's leading this thing. But I'm saying, let us also just try to resolve that matter, because it's an ongoing program that is taking place now, but there is no other platform that we can also add that view in order for this thing to be attended to. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Okay. Thank you. The last point, I'd like us to discuss it under programming. It's likely to emerge there, and we'll talk about it. Honorable Majodina, Chief Whip, please lower your hand. I noticed it's an old hand. We only take new hands. Is there any new hand, honorable members?
Yes, Honorable Frolic.
Honorable Frolic, please talk.
Good morning, Deputy Speaker and members of the committee. May I request that we come back in terms of the issue of public hearings? It is a matter, the Chief Whip is absolutely correct, that is of concern, that under the current COVID conditions, we are constrained in terms of going out into the communities and getting their views. But there is work that has been done on a proposal on how committees can do this type of public works, whether it is through a virtual connection, through a local office, or whatever. But I don't want to go into the detail. If we can be given time, Deputy Speaker, to report back at the next meeting.
Okay, all right. Okay, so that one will pass it out, both for purposes of earlier comments there and then later. Okay, we'll do that. If there isn't anybody else on bills in this, I'll give over to Ndate Tau and Mr. Bell.
Honorable Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
My hand is up.
Go ahead, speak. Sorry.
Basically, what I was just wanted to find out is the wage bill. It was supposed to be reintroduced last year. I wonder where it is now in terms of progress, and it's something that we need to actually look at. Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. That was withdrawn previously from Parliament. It was supposed to be reintroduced, and it was like it was going to be reintroduced late last year, but that didn't happen. Also, on the other hand, I don't know whether this would be the right forum to actually just look at it, to say that at various forums, when we deal with business that has got to do with members of Parliament, we continue to complain about how adversely tax laws affect members.
That's not a programming matter, please. That's not a programming matter.
I finished.
We'll find.
Suit me after finishing.
So,
that's why I made a rider right at the beginning of my.
Yes, ma'am. Allow me to interrupt you. Don't proceed with it because I'm ruling on it immediately. We will discuss it in the appropriate fora.
Protect me from
Deputy
Speaker. Protect me from yourself. I haven't.
This is why I'm asking you to stop on that agenda. This is what I'm saying. You shouldn't proceed. That's how I'm protecting you from yourself and myself. Otherwise, I'll have to be harsher.
Here.
Please, we'll deal with that differently. I plead with you, madam, with the greatest of respect. Honorable members, let's give the two gentlemen, it is gentlemen, to give responses.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. From my side, on the issue of public hearings, I am covered by the House Chairperson, Honorable Frolic. And on the issue of recognition of customary marriages, I would request that we be given time to go and check to what extent are the amendments addressing the issue of Muslim marriages. And then in the next meeting, we will report back in consultation with colleagues in legal services. Thank you.
Okay. In the meantime, I can tell Honorable Majorina that they do. So you can go and confirm what I'm saying to her. They do deal with the matters that she raises here. Okay, let's hear Mr. Bells. Any comment?
No, thank you, Deputy Speaker, not at this point.
The Gender Equality Bill, you spoke about it some time back. What did you say about it? Remind me. Remind the meeting. Mr. Bells?
Deputy Speaker, the Gender Equality Bill.
Yes.
No, I
The
don't
one
think.
that was withdrawn.
I'll have to think about that one. I can't recall. Oh, yes, now I remember. There was a question about it, and I think my response was that it lapsed somewhere in May 2014. And the full title of the bill was Women Empowerment and Gender Equality Bill. It lapsed in 2014, and I'll have to double check my statistics, but I don't think it was ever revived.
Yes, you had some story about it the last time I heard. But do go and confirm that so that you give us an answer. And don't wait for the next meeting. Just send it to Honorable Tuntate Kaso, and we'll communicate that information to members so that they know what the story is with that bill. Yeah. Okay. All right, members, let's go to the next item. The next item is program. Honorable Majake.
Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The program as flighted. Today is the 18th of February in week number 4 of the first term. After programming meeting, we'll have caucus by political parties. At 2 o'clock, we'll have a joint sitting on a hybrid system for reply by President on the SONA debate. The week that follows is week number 5, with Monday, the 22nd of February, being Constituency Day, Tuesday, the 23rd of February, 10 and 13 hours is committees. At 14 hours, we have plenary for business as listed. Wednesday, the 24th of February, between 9 and 13 hours, we have committees. At 10 o'clock, we've got Chief Whips Forum. At 14 hours, up to 15:30, we have the budget speech. Thursday, the 25th of February, 8:30 is programming. 10 o'clock is multi-party women's caucus. At 14 hours, we'll have our condolence motion for the members of parliament who passed away. As listed, may their souls rest in peace. Friday, the 26th of February, we'll have committees. The week that follows is week number 6, with Monday, the 1st of March being Constituency Day, Tuesday, the 2nd of March. Between 10 and 13 hours, we've got committees. And then at 14 hours, we have plenary that has actually catered for member statements, motions without notices, and notices of motions, and a matter that was actually raised as a concern in the previous meeting. And when you will observe that for the coming Tuesdays, we will still continue to cover that. Wednesday, the 3rd of March, between 9 and 13 hours, it's committees. At 10 o'clock is Chief Whips Forum. At 15 hours, up to 18 hours, is plenary. The main business of the day will be questions for oral reply, cluster 1, peace and security. Thursday, the 4th of March, at 8:30, is programming committee meeting. 10 o'clock, it's caucus by political parties. At 14 hours, we'll have mini plenaries for business as listed. Friday, the 5th of March, is committees. The week that follows is week number 7, with Monday, the 8th of March, being Constituency Day. Tuesday, the 9th of March, we have plenary for business as listed, and to still notice that we have member statements, motions without notice, notices of motions. Wednesday, the 10th of March, we have from 9 to 13 hours, committees. At 10 o'clock, we have Chief Whip's Forum. At 15 hours, we have plenary that will actually be looking at questions for oral reply, Cluster 2, social services, and consideration of the fiscal framework and proposals and report of the Standing Committee on Finance thereon. Thursday, the 11th of March, 8:30 is Programming Committee meeting at 10 o'clock. It's caucus up to 12:30. Then it's followed by mini plenaries for business as listed. Friday, the 12th of March is committees. The week that follows is week number 8, which will be the last week of the term, with Monday, the 15th of March, being Constituency Day. Tuesday, the 16th of March, between 10 and 13 hours is committees. At 14 hours, we have plenary for business as listed. Wednesday, the 17th of March at 9 up to 13 hours is committees. At 10 o'clock is Chief Whip's Forum. At 15 hours, we have plenary, and the main business of the day will be questions for oral reply, Cluster 3, governance. Thursday, the 18th of March, 8:30, Programming Committee meeting. At 14 hours, it's mini plenaries for business as listed. Friday, the 19th of March, which is our last day, we will have plenary at 10 o'clock for consideration of the report of the Standing Committee on Appropriation on Division of Revenue Bill and the second reading thereof, and a debate on Human Rights Day. And that will actually be then the end of the first term of 2021. The political parties have actually raised concern about questions to the Deputy President, which is what is still being worked on. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you very much, honorable members. Any comments on programming? The matter on the sectoral parliaments and the effective inclusion of the rest of people will be addressed in the presentation of the House Chairperson for committees when we next discuss. I'm aware also of other ideas that the Communication Services of Parliament were recommending, but those will be added to if they are not already incorporated in the public engagement strategy as will be presented at the next meeting. And that Mayor Majodina, I see your hand is up.
Yes, it is. Deputy Speaker, on the issue of the Deputy President, it was not a concern per se, but we're saying in March he's supposed to appear in National Assembly, and there was an explanation that in March he's supposed to appear both in NA and in the NCOP. The Honorable Papo was liaising with the Office of the Speaker yesterday. I think he can update us if is there a confirmed date that we can look we can have DP in the National Assembly, notwithstanding the fact that March is shorter in terms of days of plenary, but if needs be, that this NAPC could allow Honorable Papo to make presentation, and if that date, if it's coming with any date that impact on a certain cluster, maybe we need to reconsider shifting that cluster to allow the Deputy President to respond to questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Honorable Hope, any news from your side?
Good morning, Deputy Speaker. The Chief Whip is correct. We had to look at both because normally you find that the NA goes on constituency period earlier, and then NCOP remains maybe for a week and a half, and then we're able to have responses also in the NCOP. But this time the houses are rising on the same day. So the date we are proposing is the 17th. 17th of March. So if it impacts on a particular cluster, then the NAPC will have to decide on what that cluster questions will happen. There is a plenary on that day, and there's also a date we are proposing to the NCOP, but it's not for this meeting. But there had to be some swap with the NCOP, hence there was a bit of a delay.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, members, on the program?
Deputy Speaker, my hand is up.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think there was an undertaking yesterday that today we might get an answer on the appearance of the Deputy President in the National Assembly. The proposed date of 17 March, there's a cluster that must appear on that day. And I think the hesitance to put a date from the Deputy President on the program, now sit us with a lot of trouble now. Now it is us that we have to look at at the challenge here. The Deputy President knew from the start of this term that he had to appear before this House. I was very happy yesterday when he said, no, there's some progress yesterday in the Chief Whip Forum when Mr. Papu said there's some progress and so forth. It seems, how can you pick a date and create a further problem on the program? Because there's a cluster that must answer questions on the day. And most probably the members already started to work on those questions for oral reply on the day. If you choose a date like that, it says to me you don't want to appear at all because you're giving us a further problem. You're kicking the can down the road. You're putting it into our space to solve. We can't solve that problem. The Deputy President must look at another date in March because that one clearly cannot help us. Thank you, Deputy.
Okay. Who else wants to speak? Who else would like to speak?
Chief Whip, sir.
Chief Whip.
And Tasha, Speaker, hands also up.
Okay. Go ahead, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. Honorable Deputy Speaker, March is full. And Mr. Hope is saying the date that is available is the 17th. It is upon us here in the NAPC to check where do we accommodate the Deputy President. Unfortunately, March we are rising earlier than the usual practice. So that is why it is so congested. So I want to appeal and plead with this NAPC that let's be flexible and move one of the cluster to accommodate the Deputy President, failing which it means he will come in the second term. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comment?
Chief Whip of the Opposition, sir.
Natasha, Honorable Mazoni.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, the Honourable Chief Whip of the Majority Party did say in the beginning of the meeting that she was going to bring up the question of the increase of numbers in the House under the programming of Parliament. And I was hoping that you would give us an opportunity to discuss the document that was sent around by the National Assembly table, which we all received, that in fact does increase the number. And I was hoping that you would give us an opportunity to approve that document, because I think that it is a step in the right direction. And certainly the increase in numbers is exactly the way I envisage Parliament going forward. And I would like to appreciate the work that has been put into that document. And I would like to move that we formally adopt that document that was circulated this morning. Thank you very much.
Honourable members, if there isn't any other comment on the programming, I'd like to suggest that I haven't seen that document, but it's for you members in the meeting here to decide. Ndate Klaus, can you explain that so that we know what we are agreeing to?
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I'm wondering if my colleagues could display the document on the screen. Yes, there we go. It proposes 166 members in the chamber, as recommended by the Chief Whips Forum yesterday. And that is the breakdown. The ANC have been entitled to 93 seats, but the ANC has donated its seats to the other parties. If you could go down the document, please. Yeah, there it is. So it has donated the seats to these parties, one each. So in terms of this document, Deputy Speaker, the ANC will have 85 members in the chamber, the DA 35 members, EFF 18 members, IFP 6, FF plus 5, ACTP 3, UDM 2, ATM 2, GOOD 2, NFP 2, AIC 2, COPE 2, and PAC 1 each. That is what the document is about.
In that class, PAC and Al Jama 1 each respective. You didn't mention Al Jama. They are not PAC.
My apologies, Deputy Speaker. I really profusely apologize. Al Jama 1. Thank you.
Yeah. Now, this proposal, how does it square with the disaster regulations requirement?
Deputy Speaker, I will ask Advocate Adhikari is here, because they prepared a legal opinion on this issue, and I prefer that on legal matters they comment.
Okay, yes, let her do so. Advocate, are you there? Speak to us.
She does not seem to be on the platform, but in essence, Deputy Speaker, the opinion is that Parliament is a...
Good morning.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, good morning,
Go
members.
Ahead,
my apologies. Good morning. Yes, we've had a look at the regulations, and pertinently, Regulation 36, which specifically regulates gatherings at a workplace for work purposes, simply provides that strict adherence to health protocols and social distancing measures are required. So, because this would be a workplace, there is no there's no limit as to numbers, as long as the provisions are adhered to in respect to the protocols and distancing. Thank you.
No. I don't understand what you're saying. Because it's a workplace, therefore there are no limits as long as social distance is maintained?
Yes, Deputy Speaker. Regulation 36 of the regulations that were published on the 11th of January 2021 was amended, and that was specifically to allow for protocols in the workplace. And so there was no specificity with regards to numbers, simply to the amount, to the actual physical distancing. So it depends on the size of the workspace as to how many people can be accommodated in a specific workspace.
Okay. Yeah, this is very odd because ahead of the SONA, we restricted the number in the House to 50. How do we then square it with having done that and then be told that now these numbers you are citing and proposing are way beyond that? What sense does it make? These are questions that I have because of what I was saying and talking to people about the necessity for limiting the numbers in the way we did during the SONA. Yes, Honorable Natasha, is that you?
No, it's
Sheikh Imam.
Is it Sheikh Imam? Okay.
Deputy Speaker, let me just indicate whose hand is up.
Yes, please. Thanks. That will help.
It's Honorable Tangweni. And Chief Whip, I don't know if your hand is still up. It's the Chief Whip of the Majority Party and Honorable Sheikh Imam.
Okay, in that order, please, members, let's follow that order. That's just said by Dade Kaso.
Oh, no, thanks. I think I'm the first one to speak in terms of the list he has read here, in terms of what should happen. Look, the context is that the exact reading of the regulation 36(5) says gatherings at the workplace for work purposes are allowed, subject to strict adherence to all health protocols and social distancing measures. So you've got mines which have got thousands of workers which are still operating now in terms of workplaces, mines and huge factory spaces that are operating now in terms of so if our understanding is that Parliament is a gathering space or it's a workplace, so everyone else can go to work as long as there's adherence to strict health protocols. So the gatherings in subsection 6 that seem to be prohibited, it's gatherings at cinemas and theaters are limited to 50% or less for indoor venues and 100% or less for outdoor venues. And then gatherings in casinos, 50 plus, all of those things there. But in terms of workplaces, I don't think there is currently any prohibition. And we're raising this because we think that if we're going to go to elections now, we should, all of us, be allowed to gather in our own workplaces to then deal with some of the issues that have to be dealt with differently. So let's gather. And then we then deliberate. And we of course, had expressed a contrary perspective, but it looks like now we're going to be frog marched into elections. So let's gather in a socially responsible and health compliant manner, and then talk politics and then push towards the removal of the ruling party in August when we go to local government elections.
Next. Honorable Sheikh.
I thought I'm last on the list, Deputy Speaker, but I can speak if it's okay with you.
Who was next?
It was me, Deputy Speaker, but I'm properly covered and led by the Deputy President of the EFF.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay.
Then
Chief Whip will be next, sir.
Chief Whip.
Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Speaker. The Chief Whip of EFF must not start. If he wants a debate on the removal of the ANC, he must put a motion, and not just to ambush your views here.
No, I said the removal of ruling party in all local government. It's not only you.
Honorable Shivambo, please don't share your aspirations here on this platform, please. Let's finish with the business of Parliament. Then you can talk about your aspirations outside. Go ahead, finish your point, Honorable Machudina.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. I fully concur with the explanation of the regulation and support that let's go back to Parliament in those numbers, because Parliament, our capacity in the NA is not 166, it's 460, and now we are within the correct statistics. If we are saying let's bring 166, and I think the smaller parties will appreciate that whilst we had 93, we were considerate enough to say we can donate some of our seats so as to accommodate them, so that we don't only restrict them to one person. Thank you.
Okay. Next.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I would like the ANC to be just as accommodating in donating some of its minutes as well. That might help while you are. But thank you very much. I think there are two issues here for me, Deputy Speaker. The first one being that we must not forget that there has to be at least a 1.5 meter distance between two people. So we need to look at the size of the chamber itself and whether we can, and clearly you're not going to be able to accommodate all 400 people if you take that into consideration. And the second and very important issue is, and I've asked this question previously, but I'm not sure whether it has been responded in my absence or not. How safe and secure is the chamber itself by virtue of the fact that the doors are closed, the windows are closed, and if you hear what our Minister of Health has said, that this virus can be transmitted through the air conditioner as well. So if we can get some of our experts there to give us some guidance on that, I'd appreciate it. But very importantly, we must not forget the issue of social distancing in the chamber and whether we have enough square meterage to be able to accommodate the 400. Thank you.
Okay, next, your numbers, the number you mentioned.
we have Honorable Papo's hand. I don't know if it is current, Deputy Speaker.
And also Natasha's hand, Deputy Speaker.
Okay, Honorable Mazoni, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker, in actual fact, the air conditioner, from what I understand, has filters in it and filters the air that comes through to Parliament. And I want to say this, I'm incredibly impressed with the way in which Parliament has adopted its sanitation programs. There are sanitizers all over the area. You will see that our ushering staff and the staff in Parliament are constantly cleaning and sanitizing the desks, which I appreciate very much. And I think that there is an excellent overall adherence to the wearing of masks. I paid particular attention to it yesterday. And even those of us who are unfortunately in the position who have to wear glasses, we've figured out ways in which we can wear our glasses without them being steamed up. I think the way the podium is cleaned is especially good, and the Honourable Manamela will be able to tell you just how well the podium can be cleaned when you insist on it being cleaned twice. So I'm very, I feel very happy with the cleaning that happens in Parliament. In fact, I feel a lot safer being in Parliament than being in a local supermarket, for example. And I think that says a lot about the National Assembly staff who have taken our health into consideration. And I think it says a lot about the way we as members of Parliament have taken this virus very seriously. I know that I'm an affectionate person, and I've often wanted to give my colleagues from across the aisles and next to me, and a hug, hello, and we restrain ourselves, and we do a foot tap or an elbow tap. And I think that we are adults, and we must be allowed to behave as adults, and we take control and of our health. I mean this without in any way sounding ageist. I within my own caucus have suggested that those members who are slightly older, who perhaps feel that they are more at risk, do stay at home, and let those who are younger that feel that they are less at risk come and do the work and carry the workload in the house. And that, I think, is just the responsible thing to do. But I feel perfectly safe, and I think that the social distancing that we have at the moment is very well done. And I think that the Parliament of South Africa will be able to show and be an example as to how you socially distance and work at the same time. Thank you very much, Deputy Speaker.
Thank you. I'm sure the chief whip of the majority party is listening to you when you talk about age. Ndate Papo, recall the meeting that. Is your hand up?
Yes, I wanted to raise the two issues. I hope the programming people will deal with the issues which were raised in relation to that. Is that on the 11th, the DP will be, we had to swap the date. There was already a date of the NCOP. We had to swap it. But the problem is, as I indicated, normally we are able to deal with the two houses. We start with the NA and the NCOP after. But then now, because of the closing on the same day, it created a bit of a complication. I don't want to go into the aspersions with Mr. Julius always cast on the Deputy President. They are not acceptable. He always does that. But fortunately, the Chief Whip has actually understood. The ones raised by Chief Whip Mazoni, I think the 166 was long worked out. They worked on the distances last year when we went into level 3. It's that some of the members did not use up their seats, but the staff of Parliament indicated that the 166 they had arrived at after doing the measurements, and if people adhere. Parliament is the better place for adherence than what we work in communities and out there. There's less adherence outside parliaments to protocol than in Parliament, actually. So, and worse, we are in the epicenter in Gauteng. So we are surviving in the epicenter. So when we are in Cape Town, it's actually a relief in terms of the situation. So my sense is that Parliament has done everything to secure its staff, secure its members, and generally the figures of people of show that Parliament has actually is the one of the best compliant work.
Thanks. So. Thank you very much, honourable members. In the absence of any earth-shattering announcements, I declare the
Chief
meeting.
Deputy.
What point are you raising on that?
We haven't dealt. We didn't deal with the issue of the Deputy President. I don't think we resolved on it.
No.
But
that matter has been.
Can I finish, please?
What are you saying?
I say we didn't get a full date of when. I don't think we resolved on the matter, but I think I just need to add this, that we have a responsibility to raise matters when the Deputy President continuously do not appear, and we have challenges there. Mr. Papo must understand that we have a responsibility to raise this. The non-appearance of the Deputy President is now becoming a habit, and we must raise
Honorable Julius, can you stop? That matter cannot be finalized in this meeting. Dates were given. There's a discussion about it. We couldn't finalize it ourselves in the meeting here. Be realistic, man. Please. Let's allow the leadership of the programming committee and whips to discuss this matter and finally come with an appropriate date so that we handle that issue. Thank you very much. The meeting is adjourned.
Chairperson. Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
Dr. Mulder's hand is up.
Yes, Dr. Mulder.
My apologies.
What's that?
Yes, Chairperson. No, my apology. I would like to make an intervention on the decision. Have we taken a decision now with regard to the 166? And if we did, will it be implemented as from next week? That's the one point. The second point still deals with the program, unfortunately. And that's a question that next week we do have the budget. Is there an indication that there will be the normal lockdown for parties? And if so, will parties be informed how that lockdown will work, please?
On the lockdown, I think Parliament must make that decision. We must say that lockdowns must be done, but done according to the rules. We can be informed. We don't want to get into an earlier debate at the last time that we assumed that people were taking a different decision to lockdowns. So let's not, I would like to understand that there will be, but under strictly controlled and complied with requirements. And the recommendation for the numbers was given for implementation in the class when?
When the NA sits next week,
yes.
Starting on Tuesday.
Okay, so that's the recommendation.
Deputy Speaker?
Is there anybody who objects? Yes.
Deputy Speaker?
Deputy Speaker?
I'm listening.
It's Acting Secretary. I just want to say to members, indeed, we have received correspondence from the Minister of Finance Office. The lockdown and the venues for the members of Parliament have been agreed to, and we'll send communication by end of day today or tomorrow. This is for the briefing.
Why not today?
This is the briefings for the budget speech, ma'am. We'll send it today.
Yes, please do it today. Yeah. There's no need to hang on to letters that are already present.
No. It's us having to communicate. Deputy Speaker, it's us having to communicate to you. Remember, it's just communication from them. We can't just pass it on like post offices. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
No. I'm just saying that the meeting is finished now, so that thing can be done today. We do want to have.
Yes, we will send.
Deputy Speaker. Deputy Speaker is in Tlhapeni. Thanks, Deputy Speaker. Since we're on the budget lockdown, Deputy Speaker, I've raised this yesterday also in our committee that last budget speech and we didn't receive the budget. As per it's the norm that the Appropriations Committee and Finance Committee receive the budget before it's presented in the House. So that lockdown effectively becomes such a wasteful expenditure. So if you can write from your side as well that the minister must include in the other packages his budget before it's presented in the House sitting. Thank you very much.
Deputy Speaker Sheikh Imam, very quickly, one question, just a point of clarity. If it's okay with you.
What's the question?
What about the position of staff of parliamentary parties and things? Is Parliament ready to accept them? Are they able to then resume duties by virtue of the fact that we're going to be attending plenary sessions in larger numbers? Thank you.
Can the acting secretary communicate that with the requirements and so on? Is Honorable Frolic here?
Yes, Deputy Speaker.
Yes.
Yes, I'm on the platform, Deputy Speaker.
Okay, please take over, sir. I can't stay beyond time. I did indicate I'm unable to stay beyond. I have a responsibility to carry out immediately. Please take over.
I think all of us must be in our caucus at 10 o'clock. Okay, thank you, Deputy Speaker. Are there any other new hands? I see there's a few hands on the platform. The Honourable Julius's hand is up. The Honourable Ntlangwini's hand is up. And those are the two hands. Do you want to make an input, colleagues? Honourable Julius? Okay. All of them are gone.
No, sorry, Honourable Frog, it was an old hand.
Okay, thank you, Honourable Julius. No, that's fine, not a problem. I think we've come towards the end of this discussion, but let me allow the Acting Secretary just to respond where the Deputy Speaker left it off, where the question was asked by the Honourable Sheikh Imam in terms of support staff and others coming into Parliament. Are we ready for that, Acting Secretary?
On our frolic, yes, we are. We always have to get the list of people who are coming to the precinct, and they're issued with what we call screening passport. So what we would request would be various names from the various parties of staff that will attend, so that they're screened earlier and to reduce the queues. We will ask the team, I will ask the rapid response team today to write to all the chief whips of the parties to indicate how many staff they are bringing on and the contact details of that staff, so that we then are able to do an online questionnaire on comorbidities with them and clear them before they get to the office. So we don't delay each other's time. If somebody has a comorbidity, we do not clear them to come onto the precinct. Thank you very much, Honourable Frolic.
Thank you, Acting Secretary. I think it's important that the political parties cooperate in this respect, because the regulations in terms of level 3 will still be enforced in Parliament, and those parties who are sending more members, who are coming for the first time, must be made aware, including their staff, must be made aware that there is a procedure in place, and that we'll need to abide by all the regulations that Parliament has put in place for members and support staff to get into the precinct. I also know that in the past, when some support staff will go out at certain times, and then they will have to come back and go through all those procedures again. We cannot compromise on the safety of anyone within the precincts of Parliament. Are there any announcements?
House Chair, sorry. I just the clarity. Sorry, House Chair.
Okay.
I just want to check, since we are increasing the numbers of the house settings inside, what about committees? Are the committees still going to be fully visual? What is our work in terms of that?
No, thank you, Honourable Mhlangwini. I'll get a report on the readiness of the different committee rooms. I know there were at least 2 rooms that were prepared and ready, but in the meantime, we will continue with the virtual meetings until a notice go out to say that we are implementing a hybrid system based on the availability of rooms that conform to the regulations of COVID-19 where we currently are. That will be communicated, but in the meantime, we will proceed with the virtual meetings until further notice. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any announcements? There's no further announcements, so this brings to an end the meeting of the Programming Committee. Have a good day, colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you. Good day to everyone.
Thank you.